Welcome back, folks. This is Suave, and today we're going to be doing a tier list for all the purple cards for the Set 1 booster set Romance Dawn for the One Piece card game. We're going to be ranking all these cards and seeing how they stack up against each other. So, without further ado, let's begin. Alrighty, let's go ahead and take a look at the leader cards real quick. Once again, we're not really ranking the leaders here. We're just using them as a point of reference to see what leaders are going to be available to use these purple cards. So first up, of course, we have our starter deck leader here, Kaido. Kaido does main ability once per turn, Dawn -7. You get to trash one of your opponent's life. It's a really good ability. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the next leader. This is King. King is a 5,000 power, 5 life. Once again, on your turn, if you have 10 Dawn cards on your field, all of your opponent's characters have minus 1,000 power, and it's only available on your turn only. Very powerful ability, especially if you're doing an attrition war with your opponent. Here we go. Kaido, the blue-purple leader, so you can use blue and purple cards, 5,000 power, 4 life. If he has 1 Dawn attached to him on your turn once per turn, when one of your characters, if one of your opponent's characters is KO'd, you may add 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and set it as active. And last but not least, we have the blue-purple Crocodile. Crocodile is also 5,000 power for 4 life. When he has 1 Dawn attached to him, if you activate an event, you may draw 1 card if you have 4 or less cards in your hand and haven't drawn a card using this leader's effect during this turn. Alright, now let's go ahead and jump into the good stuff. So first of all, with the purple cards, we have Urashima. Urashima is a 7 cost, 9,000 power vanilla character, counter plus 1,000. So here's the thing about Urashima. Urashima has really good stats. This is the first time we're seeing a 7 cost for 9,000 vanilla character. However, 7 cost, if you have maximum Dawn at 10, that means you're only going to have 3 Dawn left over to really defend yourself. That's kind of like the dangerous territory where you really want to limit how many characters you have at 7 plus that cost 7 plus Dawn. And so I think because there's so many really good big bodies that purple has access to, I'm not sure if people are going to be running Urashima over some of the other characters that we're going to be seeing later today. And so I think for that reason alone, Urashima might be card fodder. I could be wrong. He might be seeing some play, but I think because of that high cost, I think there's going to be better options. So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and put Urashima down here to the card fodder tier. That might change on later on. We'll see what some of the ramp decks might do later on. Next up, we have Ulti. Ulti is a 2 cost for 3,000 power. On play, you have to rest 1 more Dawn, and then you get to add 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and then rest it. So here's the thing about Ulti. She's a mixed bag for me because yes, she does ramp and she only costs 3 in order to ramp up, but she also doesn't have a counter on her at all. And so if you draw into her kind of mid to late game and you're kind of nearing the end of your Dawn, you're kind of not really happy to see her unless maybe you're playing like Kaido, the purple starter Kaido, where you can do 7 minus Dawn and then you play her. But even if you do that, let's say you have 10 Dawn and then you do Kaido's ability to subtract 7 Dawn, then you play Ulti, and then you have you're gonna have 4 rested Dawn by the end of your turn. You don't have any active Dawn to defend yourself with any counters. And so I think Ulti, while I think she may have her purposes, I think she has limited purposes. I'm not really personally, I'm not a big fan of her. I think I'm just gonna put her in the B tier just because she's not necessarily useless. I know people are gonna play her, but me personally, I'm just not a big fan of Ulti. Now, this next card is something that everyone's a big fan of, not that one. It is Kaido. Kaido is a 10 cost for 12,000 power. On play, Dawn -6. You may, if your leader has the Animal Kingdom Pirates type, so right now it's only Kaido and King, then you get to KO all characters other than this one. So he's basically a huge nuke that wipes the board, and he's kind of the emergency button. And right now in this meta, purple kind of needs that when they're kind of being overwhelmed, and they're not able to react fast enough. In some cases, this might be the only answer for purple when it comes to that 8 cost kid, and that's kind of a meta defining card right now. So really, for me, this Kaido is a minimum 2 copies of in any single deck that can run purple and has and you're either running Kaido or King right now. This is such a really good card. You really need something like this in order to be able to compete with some of the other decks that are out there right now. So right now, Kaido, easily S tier competitive right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next card we have here, number 95. It is Kyoshirou. Kyoshirou is one of my personal favorite cards. It is a 5 cost for 6,000 power, counter plus 1,000. On play, if you have 8 or more Dawn cards on your field, you get to draw 1 card. Now that might be a little bit limiting, just because if you're trying to defend yourself and you're destroying your own Dawn, you might not be able to get his benefit off right away, and you only want to play him when you have 8 or more Dawn so that you can recycle him and draw a card. But getting to 8 Dawn or more is not that hard, especially if you're playing a really big ramp purple, or if you're even playing blue purple Kaido, who can ramp himself up really, really quickly. And so I think Kyoshirou is going to see a whole lot of play. He gets to draw a card, he has a counter on him. I think he's really, really amazing. He does have that limiting ability where you have to have 8 or more Dawn, but I don't really see that as being a huge problem. I think I'm gonna put him in A tier for now. I probably would put him in S tier, but I think just because the 8 or more Dawn, he's not someone that you want to play early on. You have to really wait for the right moment to be able to play a card like him. Next up, we have King. King is a really good card for me. 7 cost for 7,000 power, no counter. However, on play, Dawn -2, KO one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less, and one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 2 or less. So this is a really big anti-aggro card. You get to destroy 2 really good cards. It could either be there's a lot of powerful 3 costs, and there's also a lot of powerful support units or blockers that are costing 2 or less. And so the King has a lot of versatility. He's going to be seeing a lot of play in a lot of decks. Personally, I think he belongs in the S tier. I think everyone should be running at least 1 or 2 Kings in their purple decks, because he's just very versatile, and there's just a lot of options that you can do with him to be able to come back and destroy the field. And then you can just have a big 7,000 body on the next swing. Next up, we have another really good card here. We have Queen the Plague. 6 cost for 5,000 power, counter plus 1,000. On play, Dawn -1. This character gains Rush during this turn. This is a really important ability. Rush is really good, and purple only has one other Rush ability, or one other Rush character, and that was from the starter deck. So now we have another one here. Then give your opponent's characters, one of your opponent's characters, -2,000 power during this turn. That's really significant. So he has Rush and he has the Otama ability built into him. So you can use him as a way to really tear down a big opponent, such as the 8 cost kid. Maybe there's even like a 6 or 7,000 power character out there that's just really annoying to get rid of. Now all of a sudden they have -2,000 power, and Queen can attack them immediately because he has a Rush, giving them more pressure onto your opponent to play more counters than they might not have anticipated. And then you have other characters now on the field that are eligible to attack that character and put more pressure on your opponent. Really good card, really necessary for this meta, especially with an 8 cost kid right now. So me personally, I'm gonna put Queen over to S tier with some of the other guys over here. And then next up, we have here Kurozomi Orochi. 1 cost for 2,000 power. He has a counter of plus 2,000, so that's really good to see. On play, you get to reveal 1 artificial Devil Fruit Smile. This is the card from your deck, and add it to your hand. Then shuffle your deck. So this Orochi card gets to fetch a searcher card from your deck, which is really good. It gets to thin out your deck. You get in the searcher, thin out your deck again by looking at more cards. Really good ability. However, I think the Devil Fruit Smile deck archetype isn't really that strong right now, and it probably will see play in the future, but right now I probably wouldn't recommend that. I don't think anyone's really trying to run that competitively right now, so I think for that reason Orochi is probably going to be card fodder tier. I mean, technically he's not useless, but I think that deck is just not strong where it is right now, so I'm going to put him in card fodder tier. Next up, we have Kurozomi Semimaru. Semimaru, he just has one simple static ability. Anyone with a Kurozomi family type characters other than himself cannot be KO'd in battle. And that's going to be kind of significant when we see with some other card that's paired up with him. However, he's a 2 cost for 3,000, so not too bad. You know, decent stats. He can take out some of the lower guys. He has a counter of plus 1,000, so he's not useless in your hand. He does require to be comboed with another card in order to be useful. And so you might not always draw into him. If you do draw into him, you're kind of happy if you draw into that combo. Otherwise, he's not really that great all by himself. So I think I'm going to put him in B tier just because I think people will try him out to put him in the decks to combo with the other character. But by himself, he's even with the combo, you don't always see him. So for now, he's just going to be in B tier for me. The next card, however, is the card that he combos with most often, and that is Kurozomi Higarashi. 2 cost for 3,000 power, counter plus 1,000, and it is a blocker. Nothing else that's special about this one. However, what I will say about this is that this blocker is basically the same thing as Black Maria from the starter deck with 1,000 more power. So it's basically a power creep, and right now even though she doesn't have the animal kingdom trait, and Black Maria does, that really doesn't have any effect, and there's no support for that to boost Black Maria up currently right now. Maybe in the future that will change, but right now Kurozomi Higarashi set 1 is basically a power creep version of Black Maria. And so because of that, basically you want to have Kurozomi Higarashi at S tier, because basically there's really no reason to play Black Maria in the set 1 over Higurashi. And one of the other things that you have to keep in mind is that Higurashi with 3,000 power, it means a card like Shanks can't get through her. She can actually block Shanks, the secret rare card, whereas Black Maria can't because she's a 2,000 power. So for that reason alone, Higurashi being a power creep version of Black Maria for set 1 is going to be S tier for me. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the next card. It is Sasaki. Sasaki is a 3 cost for 4,000 power with a counter of plus 2,000. Plus 2,000 is always amazing to see. Dawn times 1 when attacking. You may trash 1 card from your hand, then add 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and rest it. So he's giving you ramp with the cost of discarding, which is kind of what we saw with starter deck Jack. However, starter deck Jack didn't have a plus 2,000 counter on him. This one does require him to be attacking with a Dawn attached to him, whereas Jack just did it on play, I believe, from the starter deck. So there's some ups and downs to this. Trashing 1 card from your hand can be a small price to pay, but it could also be a big price to pay, especially if you're trying to survive early game. You're probably going to be using Sasaki for his counter more often than putting him on the field and attacking. Because of the plus 2,000 counter, he's definitely very good. I don't think I would put him in S tier with some of the other cards that we've been seeing, but definitely. Oh, let me move this up here. I just realized that we're kind of moving down here. There we go. So definitely Sasaki, definitely in the A tier for me. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. We have Jack. Jack is a 3 cost for 4,000 power plus 1,000. When attacking, he doesn't even have to have a Dawn attached. I just realized. When attacking, Dawn -1, your opponent trashes 1 card from their hand. Very powerful ability. Being able to make your opponent discard cards, reduce their hand size, have less cards for countering. This is going to be a very, very good card. He is kind of a little slow. 3 costs for 4,000. Very vulnerable to a lot of removal effects. So you're going to be kind of sad if you just play him and then you have to wait your next turn until you can use him, but he got removed or something along those lines, because your opponents are going to want to do something about him. They're not going to want to get that card discard. But if they have nothing to do about it, if they cannot do anything about it, and you can basically do a cute little trick where if your opponent only has 1 card in their hand, you get to attack with Jack, make them discard, and then they take a life, and then they have only 1 card in their hand. Then you use the other Jack, and you just cycle that over and over. It's a pretty fun little mechanic there. Jack for me is probably do I put him in A tier or S tier? I think because he is a little slow, I would just put him in A tier. But his ability is just so good, and you do have to destroy 1 Dawn, but it's no big deal. Purple doesn't care about destroying their Dawns, especially when they're ramped up. For me, he's gonna go to A tier. I think he definitely deserves A tier. Next up, we have Scratchmen Apoo. Okay, Scratchmen Apoo, 4 cost for 6,000 power, vanilla counter plus 1,000. Okay, so we already have page 1, the vanilla card, and he already has very limited use where he, at least he has some use because he is able to combo with the starter deck ulti. I don't think anyone's really running Scratchman Apoo for vanilla for 6,000. I think there's just a lot of other options that you can do with that Dawn. So I think Scratchman Apoo is just going to go on the card fodder tier for now. That might change later on if we get more Animal Kingdom Pirates support. But even then, I believe page 1 has Animal Kingdom Pirates. So probably not even then. Speed. Speed is a 2 cost for 3,000 power with counter plus 1,000. Trigger, play this card. No other special abilities there. Just like with the other cards that we saw with the same template, we're just going to put her in card fodder tier. I don't think people are really making any room to play Speed over some of the other cards that we got going on here. Alright, next up we have Bao Huang. Bao Huang is a 2 cost for 3,000 power. Counter plus 1,000. On play, choose 2 cards from your opponent's hand and reveal them. So Bao Huang on her own, she's definitely not useless. You getting to know 2 cards from your opponent's hands can be a very powerful effect. However, I don't know if there's enough room to add her in your deck. Maybe as a one of, just to get that information to maybe close out a game. Other than that, I don't really see too much of a use for her. She does have that smile trait, which we're going to see with a card later on that can really combo with her. But like I was saying earlier, the smile archetype deck isn't really that strong right now. And so Bao Huang, even though that archetype isn't strong, I don't think she's that useless on her own. I think she can be kind of useful outside of a smile deck, but very, very limited use. So for that, I'm going to put her over at B tier with these other guys down here. And so next up, we have Basil Hawkins. Basil Hawkins is a 4 cost for 2,000 power. Counter plus 1,000. On play, add 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and rest it. Then trigger, play this card. So I have some mixed feelings about this one as well. Basil Hawkins is kind of a weird one because 4 cost is kind of a high price to pay for basically just a ramp. 2,000 power is not really that useful. You're probably not going to swing with him at all. He does have a counter, so that's good. He does have a trigger, so that's even better if you can get him off trigger. But you can't really rely on having him always go off the trigger whenever you want it. And so I think there's just other cards that you want to play over Basil Hawkins. And I think there's just some other ramp options as well where you don't really necessarily need Basil Hawkins. So I think Basil Hawkins, for me personally, is, well, he's not really useless, but he's definitely not going to be seeing a lot of play in my regard. So I think Basil Hawkins will go ahead and go down to the B tier here with some of the other ones. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next card. That is Babanuki. Babanuki is, I believe, our first. No, not our first. This is our second because we saw with the blue. The second 5 cost 7,000 power vanilla, but now for the purple cards with a counter plus 1,000. So Babanuki, like the same reason I put Virgo up in A tier, I think Babanuki deserves a spot in A tier just because 5 costs for 7,000 power. That 7,000 power is going to stick around, and it's really easy to just get to 5 Dawn very early on, especially for purple, and just slap down a big 7,000 power body. It's going to force your opponent to spend a lot of resources to take him out, and even if he does spend a lot of resources, you can probably play counters to keep Babanuki alive and play for more turns. So Babanuki, for me, for the purple team, easily A tier. Let's go ahead and move on to another really good card, and that is Kamazo the Manslayer. Kamazo is a 4 cost for 5,000 power, counter plus 1,000 on KO, so he has to be KO'd in order to use this ability. Dawn -1, KO one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. This is a really, really powerful card in my opinion, just because yes, your opponent doesn't want to purposely kill Kamazo in order to KO one of their own characters. However, if they do that, then you have a 5,000 power body that's always going to be swinging every turn, whether it's against the leader or whether it's against one of the enemy characters. And so for that reason, if you can get Kamazo the Manslayer out, by turn 2 when you have 4 Dawn, or maybe turn 3 when you have 5 or 6 Dawn, or 5 or 6 Dawn, depending on when you go first or second. Kamazo the Manslayer, if you can get him out, he's just going to be applying pressure left and right no matter what. And I mean, yes, that's going to mean that there's going to be more attacks coming to your face. But if you play it right and you have the right amount of defense cards, Kamazo the Manslayer is just a really big feels bad card for your opponent. They don't want to kill him, and they also feel bad that they didn't kill him, because now he's going to be attacking them every turn. And so Kamazo the Manslayer, for me, is going to be easy an A tier card. Let's move on to the next one, and that is Who's Who. Who's Who is a 2 cost for 3,000 power. Counter plus 1,000, Dawn times 1 on your turn only. If you have 8 or more Dawn on your field, this character gains plus 1,000 power. So at best, this is a 2 cost for 5,000 power character, and that's if you have 8 or more Dawn. I think there's just, while it might be good on paper with the stats, I think that there's just not enough room for someone like Who's Who. It's really weird because there's just a lot of other characters that you want to play at that low cost curve, and I'm not sure if you want Who's Who to just kind of stick around and wait until you have 8 or more Dawn so that he can swing for 5,000 with just 1 Dawn attached to him. For that reason, I think Who's Who is just going to go to the card fodder, to be honest. I don't think that there's a whole lot of room to put Who's Who in any of the decks right now. Let's go ahead and move on. We got God, I'm gonna butcher this name. Fukurokuju. So Fukurokuju is a 6 cost for 8,000 power, counter plus 1,000 vanilla character. This is, if I'm not mistaken, the first 6 cost 8,000 power vanilla character. And like I was doing with Virgo, like I was doing with Babanuki, this is a very powerful card to get out very fast. Purple can ramp up really easily to get to 6 Dawn. Probably by at the early, or at the most, like turn 3, easily get to 6 Dawn. Getting an 8,000 power for just 6. 6 is just below that dangerous borderline where you're teetering between 6 and 7. 6 is a lot more safer to play, and you have an 8,000 power body out there that's just gonna wreck the field, and it's gonna be really, really hard to remove him. I think the only card that can instantly remove him is probably Brachio Bomber, which is a purple card, and Mihawk, which is a 9 cost blue card. So other than that, Fukurokuju is going to be seeing a whole lot of play right off the bat, and I think he's going to be a very powerful card to have out there. So Fukurokuju is going to be an A tier card for me. Let's move on to the next card here. We have Black Maria. Black Maria is a 4 cost for 5,000 blocker with a counter of plus 1,000. She also has an extra ability on block, Dawn -1. This character gains plus 1,000 power during this turn. So when she's blocking, basically your opponent kind of has to respect the fact that she can be a 6,000 power blocker for only 4 Dawn, which is kind of good. I don't know if she's going to see a whole lot of play. 4 cost for 5,000 blocker is kind of a lot, especially if you have to reduce 1 Dawn to get up to 6,000 power. I think people would rather play Queen, which is a 5 coster, who is a natural 6,000 and can draw 2, discard 1 for -1 Dawn. I don't know if there's going to be enough room for both of them. There probably will be. Personally, I haven't really been using Black Maria all that much. I could be wrong on this one, but for now, I think I'll put her in B tier. I think she definitely deserves a spot in B tier. Actually, does she deserve a spot in B tier? When I'm looking at these B tier characters, is she really that bad? I don't think she's not really that bad, but you know what? I'm gonna regret putting her in B tier, so I'm gonna put her in A tier. I think she's still pretty good. Definitely maybe a 1 or 2 of in a lot of decks, but no more than that, because I think people are just gonna want to be playing Queen over her. But she does serve a different purpose with just being a 4 Dawn investment blocker. And you do need a lot of blockers for the current meta that's very aggressive right now. So yeah, let's go ahead and move her back up to A tier. Let's not do B tier. I don't think she's that bad. Page 1. Page 1 is a 4 cost for 5,000 power. Counter plus 1,000. Active main ability once per turn. Dawn -1. This character can also attack your opponent's active characters during this turn. So this is kind of a mixed bag for me. 4 Dawn for 5,000 power. It's alright. It's not the best. You do have to destroy a Dawn just so he can attack an active character. It's kind of weird because you have to... kind of almost the same deal with Frankie from the red deck. I actually don't remember what I ranked Frankie. Probably A or B tier, actually. But page 1 is kind of a weird one just because there's actually very limited times where your opponent has characters that are active unless they're like a blocker or something like that. I mean, yeah, he could take out a blocker, but for the most part, when I tested page 1, I didn't really find areas where I would use his ability very often. And so when I'm using page 1, I'm like, man, I really wish I had that vanilla page 1 that was just a 4 cost for 6,000 power. Kind of a mixed bag for me. I think he's still going to see a lot of play. Whether or not he's as bad as some of the B tier cards, I don't think he's really that bad. I just think he is probably not as good as what some people are making him out to be. For me personally, man, do I put him in B tier? 4 for 5,000. Barely sees the ability being used. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna put him in B tier. I just am not a fan of this card personally. I just haven't seen a whole lot of use with him. Next up, it is Holdem. Yeah, here we go. Holdem, 3 cost for 4,000 power. Add 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and rest it. So it is an on-KO ability. He does have a counter of plus 1,000. He does have the Smile trait. Smile isn't really that strong, but as a standalone card, he's not really useless, but he's not really that good either. You have to basically always invest 1 Dawn into him just to be able to have him as a threat to your opponent. Even then, like, Purple really doesn't want... Purple has to be very careful with how much Dawn that they're spending, and they're usually spending Dawn on some of the big bodies and trying to leave as much Dawn as they can active so that they can use their counter abilities to stay protected. For that reason, I think Holdem just isn't really going to see a whole lot of play right now. So I think I'm going to see him in the B tier. Probably not as useless as some of the other ones, but definitely not really that great compared to some of the other cards. So B tier for Holdem. Next up, we have X Drake. So X Drake is a really good card for me. He is a 5 cost for 5,000, so not that great in stats. However, he does have a counter of plus 2,000. Plus 2,000 is amazing to see. And he also has the on-play ability, Dawn -1. Your opponent trashes 1 card from their hand. So we have another card that can reduce your opponent's hand size. Really flexible card. Not only can he be a threat with a natural 5,000 power, he does have that flexibility of being a 2,000 counter. And if you do play him, you're going to be trashing one of your opponent's cards from their hand. Well, they get to trash it, but regardless, they're going to feel bad that they have to trash a card from their hand. So for that reason, with all that amazing flexibility that he has, the really good abilities, I'm going to put X Drake up to S tier with some of these other cards. Let's go ahead and move on to the event cards now. We have Elephant's Marchoo, 4 cost main ability event. KO one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 2 or less. Then add 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and set it as active. So it is both a ramp and a KO to a small character. So it could be like a small blocker. Definitely we'll see its use, I think, in tournament play. Oh, and it has the trigger. You get to activate the main effect. So the other thing about this card is that even if your opponent doesn't have a 2 cost or less character on the field, you get to still get the ramp from it. It's not a requirement to be able to KO that character in order to get the ramp. You get the ramp no matter what. So if you can get this play on trigger, it's even better. 4 cost, not that bad for a KO and a ramp. Whereas with Hawkins, it was like you play a 2,000 for a ramp. This you get to actually KO a really good card like a blocker or a support unit, and then get the ramp. So this card will definitely see a lot of play. I think definitely maybe like a one of in a lot of tournament style decks. So I think for this one, I'm gonna put it up to A tier. Let's go ahead and move on to the next card here, and I think it is 116. Yeah. This is Artificial Devil Fruit Smile. Main ability, to look at the 5 from the top of your deck, reveal one Smile type card with a cost of 3 or less and play it. Then place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. And trigger, you get to activate this main effect. So it's a searcher card. Unlike some of the other ones where we saw, I think it was, well, no, because this searcher card actually lets you play the card from your deck. And so it's actually a really powerful searcher card. However, there's not a lot of really good Smile characters to use this with. And so that's why I was saying earlier, the Smile archetype isn't really that strong right now. And so for that, I'm going to put it with the same thing with Orochi, where it kind of just belongs down there. In the future, this will probably change, but for the set 1 meta, it's just not really worth really playing right now, in my opinion. Okay, this next card, Sheep's Horn, the 2-cost event. Main ability, Dawn -1. Rest one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 6 or less. Very powerful card. I think this is one card that's probably being underutilized right now, but when you get to play it on a really big 6-cost body that maybe just came out, or it's a blocker, then you're just really happy that you get to have something like this in your hand for only 2 Dawn, which is a very small price to pay very small price to pay in order to rest some big body like that. So I think for that reason, Sheep's Horn will probably be seeing a lot of play. Is it an S tier or an A tier is my thing. I think it goes, it's one of those where it's really good on paper, but it's also one of those where you have to wait for the right target. I think for now I'm just going to put it on A tier. I could be wrong on that, but I'm going to put Sheep's Horn over to A tier with Elephant's Marchoo. Next up, we have Ulti-Mortar, one of my personal favorites. 1-cost ability event. It is a counter for Dawn -2, so kind of a significant loss there. Your leader or one of your characters gains plus 2,000 power during this battle. Then you get to draw 1 card. Additionally, it has a trigger. Add 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and set it as active. So really good ramp ability off trigger. If you play it as a counter, yes, you're losing 2 Dawn, but if you're playing your cards right and you're already near max Dawn anyways, you're just going to get the 2 Dawn back on your next turn. Plus 2,000 is really great. It's basically equivalent to the plus 2,000 counters, but additional to that, you get to draw a card. So it recycles itself when you use it. So for me personally, Ulti-Mortar, definitely S tier material. And last but not least, we have Thunder Bagua. Thunder Bagua is a 2-cost event. It is also a counter. Your leader or one of your characters gains plus 4,000 power during this battle. Really good. Then if you have 2 or less life cards, add 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck and rest it. And it also has the trigger ability. Add 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and set it as active. So no matter what, it's going to be ramping off the trigger. If you have 2 lesser life when you play this, it's going to ramp and you get plus 4,000. Really good card anywhere else. So right now, Thunder Bagua, S tier material for me. And that, folks, is going to do it for the tier list for the purple cards of the set 1 booster set Romance Dawn. Post your comments down below. Let me know what you think about this tier list. Let me know if I was wrong about anything or if you agree with any of the cards that I put in their tiers. And if you enjoyed this video and you find yourself coming back to this channel, be sure to hit that like and subscribe because I will be bringing out more content like this in the near future. So with that being said, I will see you all next time. Bye, everyone.